listening to Inclusive AF with Jackye Clayton and Katee Van Horn.
Hello, hello. This is Katee Van Horn.
And this is Jackye Clayton. Boom.
That was a pause before you even started, my friend.
I know. I
gotta get it
like,
down.
you know, that Earth, Wind, and Fire song. Da-na-na. That's what I was singing in my head when I said that.
Oh.
Sure.
The shenanigans.
So this
Let
is
the shenanigans begin.
this is the Inclusive AF podcast, and as you heard, we have a special guest with us, one of our dear friends, and one of our esteemed, we could probably say colleagues. Like, not that we work together, but we kind of do, because we all focus on DEI. I don't know. I'm going to say colleague because it's a fun word to say. So Sarah, love to turn it over to you and have you introduce yourself and share a little bit about yourself with our audience.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah Morgan. I am the Director of Equity and Inclusion for Humoriso, where I work with small and mid-sized businesses on their DEI strategy in order to help their employees feel safe, seen, and supported. I am also the host of the Leading in Color podcast, which is now on its 4th season. And I host the Inclusion Crusade podcast on the HR Happy Hour Network, which is now in its 3rd season. So I be podcasting. And when I'm not doing all of that, I live outside of Durham, North Carolina, with my husband and our 5 children and our very spoiled dog.
Very spoiled dog.
He is very spoiled.
I really feel like a slacker here because both of you have 18 podcasts.
18 shows.
That's right. 3 podcasts. Three podcasts. But Sarah's one of our people, so we'll try to get through and stay somewhat on task as we.
Yeah, that'll be fun. It's totally doable.
Good luck. Okay. To all of us.
So, Miss Sarah, let's talk about, let's start with your favorite conference and then also your conference that is coming up that you are hosting. They could be one and the same if you'd like, or if there's a different one that is your favorite.
Oh, my favorite conference outside of my own is probably Work Human. It continues to be one of the conferences that I enjoy because the content remains consistently excellent. They never and they're not repeating speakers a whole lot. Different people, they're pretty committed to finding new and different voices. They're very committed to talking about diversity, equity, inclusion in a very open way. Very people-centered and people-focused and super practical at the same time. And so I really appreciate that from a content standpoint. The conference itself, I mean, even, in terms of the speakers, the keynote speakers and things, they always have, pretty big names that are coming. They do a great job in partnering with local vendors in order to have folks come in and even down to offsetting the carbon footprint of the conference and partnering with local charities to give donations and the whole sustainability elements of how we recycle. It's so very intentional and so consistently hits on all the things that we as DEI practitioners know are important and that a lot of organizations say are important, and then they don't follow through with it, but they actually do. And so I appreciate that. Not to mention, it's a great time to just get together with people I know and love and cut up at the same time. So yeah, that one continues to be high on my list for sure.
We always do try to find a real good restaurant and a real good dinner.
Yes, always.
Every time.
Yeah, and they've never not delivered on making sure that there's, lots of places to eat nearby. And we were right by the San Diego baseball team So I know a lot of the attendees were able to like cut out and watch. I don't like baseball, so that wasn't my thing. But I noticed a lot of people were like, "Yeah, I caught a baseball game." Like we're always someplace where there is a lot to do and a lot to like grab hold of, and I appreciate that. I feel like and I feel like it's intentional
Oh yeah.
when they do it. And so that makes me appreciate it even more because they're really thinking like full circle about what each attendee's conference experience could be like and making sure that the door stays open for people who are traveling there to have an excellent experience and for Work Human to have like a good impact on the local economy, and that matters. So
I love that it's not about them. Like, how many times have you gone to a conference and they have 13 million vendors and you're like, what am I paying for? Like, I already know based on average cost, you just made $1 bazillion and now I'm spending another $1 bazillion. Like, this isn't even about me. Like, you just took whoever, and then you go to a Work Human where it's very intentional. Like, oh, we're going to sell books, we're going to do an education, or this is a shirt for you or a bag for you. It's all about those things and making you feel
we got our auras read. Like, that was amazing. Aura. We got our auras read. Like, where else are you getting that? Like, nowhere. Like, no. I dare Sherm to do something. Like, I triple dog dare you to have someone read your aura.
Dare, then they have to do it, right?
Yeah, I dare you. I dare you to get an aura reader at your next nationals.
The other part I would say is that, like, it's also, I feel like the Work Human conference is about the HR practitioner, and like, where else do we get celebrated? Like, we all are exhausted and working very hard and trying to make sure all our employees are safe and secure and everybody's good. And this, I feel like, is also a place that we can get some love, which is nice.
We get the love from the stage. We get the love from each other, and and again, it's all very practical. And it doesn't. You don't walk away feeling bad about yourself or all the things that you're not doing or all the ways that you could potentially create liability or cause problems for your and that's what a lot of these other conferences, you walk away with this laundry list of, oh crap, we're not doing this, we're gonna get audited, we're gonna get sued, we're gonna, like, all of those things. Like, you walk away with this fear of all the things that you have to do and fix when you get back. And I don't feel that way when I walk away from Work Human. I walk away feeling like energized about all the ways that I'm getting it right, the ways that I can keep pushing forward, the connections that I've made, and the ways that I can tweak things in order to improve them. And that makes such a difference in when we're trying in work where we're already exhausted and overworked and undervalued and usually underpaid. So
absolutely. Okay, now that we have your favorite, and I think Jackye and I probably would say that's in my top 2. I would say the other one is HR tech, just because I think that's such a fun
yes, I do. I did my first HR tech last year. I'm excited to go back this year. It's the conference that's not about the sessions. It really is all about the tech. It is about going down into that wide open space and wandering from booth to booth and getting to know these vendors and the ways that they can support your organization. And the exhibit halls in other conferences, for me, have always been like, let me get my kids some cheapy souvenirs. So, and that is not what is going on at HR Tech. I found myself like sitting down and really having good conversations. And so I'm looking forward to getting to do that again this year. Yeah, I would definitely say those are 1 and 2. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's also fun that we get to see some of the new technologies on some of the startup stages too, which
yes, those are my favorite. That's my favorite. I sit and watch the tech competition, the
Yeah.
whole, like all 3 rounds. I missed one of the first rounds and I was upset last because then people advance and I'm like, I don't even know. I
Yeah.
missed it. What is this about? So yeah, but it's
That's
great. It's
awesome.
always great to see.
Yeah. So tell us about your conference now, because
Yeah.
it's an exciting one.
Yes. So coming up October, at the end of October, October 27, 28, and 29, 3 workshops, 3 hour workshops. It's a 3 hour tour, make up what I call the HROI Summit. So the Human Return on Investment. I started HROI in 2020. It was at that point, I was pretty burnt out on traditional conferences and all the things we just said about just going and walking away feeling bad about yourself and feeling like I spent all this money and I can't go back to my boss and say, here's what I learned. Here's something that we should do and grab hold of. And another thing I find with conferences is that all the presentations are about like what's cool, right? And not necessarily geared toward the practitioner and their needs. So with HROI, the first thing that I did was, and I have probably 1,500, 2,000 people who subscribe to my monthly newsletter. And so I sent, and the majority of them are HR practitioners working a desk. So the first thing that I did was I was like, all right, well, here are the ideas of things that I have that I would want these sessions to be about. And sent that out to them in the form of a survey. And they said, no, we want to talk about these things. I even had a few write-ins that I was like, oh, okay, well, if this is what the people want, then let's give the people what they want. And so this go around, we did the same thing and sent that out. High impact onboarding and orientation is the first session. The second session is the new recipe for workplace safety, which talks not just about like your physical safety and OSHA regulations, but also how you build psychological safety and how you manage the process when someone is ill or injured related to something at work, and how in a way that doesn't become like adversarial and contentious. And then the last is the T on talent, which is really talking about how we utilize technology to help us put together a talent program that is responsive to the needs of candidates, and also helps hiring managers, move that process along. And if you're someone who's low tech, because there are a lot of organizations out here who cannot afford the fancy technologies with the bells and whistles. Here's some ways that you can use that if you are in Excel spreadsheets, or whatever the case may be. Like, here's the way that you do that in your Excel spreadsheet or in your Google spreadsheet. There are even some, nifty ways that you can use Chat GPT to help you monitor some of this stuff. And so, whether you're high tech or whether you're low tech, here's the way that you get through that and you build a program that people are going to respond to and that are going to help get your jobs filled. So those are the 3 sessions, led by amazing women of color who have been practitioners in the space for decades. So Lorena Pabon and BJ Anderson both of Humoriso currently are leading the session on onboarding and orientation. I am leading the session on workplace safety, and Kirsten Greggs, the track recruiter, is handling the T on talent. And we are still in our early bird registration as we're recording this, but the early bird will end in early September, I believe September 5th. And once that happens, prices will go up by $50. So right now in early bird, it's $199, and then it will go up to $239. But I am offering the Inclusive AF listeners a discount code, the inclusive AF. So you can type in a discount code and get $50 off your registration for a single session and $150 off if you register for all 3 sessions. So if you register for all 3 sessions, it would cost you $699. So this is going to take $150 off of that, because what's important to me is making sure that we get attendees in the building in a way that is affordable and reasonable, and that they're able to gather the content. The other thing I want to make sure to note is that we have payment plans, because sometimes people don't have all the monies right away. So you have 2 and 3 pay options to be able to attend the sessions as well, in case you are funding it for yourself because your organization doesn't have budget for your continuing education. And for some people, that may be their entire budget or all that they've set aside. So we want to try to save people as much as possible and help them to kind of split those payments up so that they're able to do this.
Awesome.
I love that you're doing that.
you.
We were just talking. Yeah, thank you on behalf of all of our listeners, because I appreciate that. But then also, I love that, you're giving people that practical piece and digging in. I was just talking to someone. They're like, what's missing at conferences? And it's like, people still have topics like how to write a business case for diversity, or how to get the C-suite to get engaged. And it's like, listen, the challenges are so much deeper. I need to be able to solve a problem. And I don't want to hear, I don't want some light same thing that's getting regurgitated over and over and over again. That really could be a blog post. I really want to have, I love that it's 3 hours where you could dig in, talk to people that are really professionals that can help solve an actual problem. And let's look at safety, and let's break it down on all of the different pieces and what's the impact and how do we look at it, so that when you leave, you can really have an action plan.
Yeah. And also, for those who register for all 3 sessions, they will be entered into a drawing to win coaching one-on-one with me. So registering for all 3 sessions gives you the option to be able to get some additional one-on-one time with me. When I did the first HROI, I did a coaching cohort alongside of it as like a buy-up. But the feedback that I got was, for most people, was that they wanted more one-on-one time. Unfortunately, my schedule doesn't allow me to commit to that fully for the number of people that come through HROI, but I can at least, get a few coaching folks out of that and work with them one-on-one on taking what they've learned in the conference and then actually putting it into place at their workplace, and anything else that they want to talk to me about from a coaching perspective within their career. So all of that is on the table. Again, register HROI Summit .events. So you can go to the Humoriso website, go to our events page, and it will take you right to it. And I know that it'll be linked in the show notes for this show as well. If you follow me on any of the socials, that's pretty much all I'm going to be talking about from now until October, because we want to get this thing as close to sold out as we possibly can.
Hi, my name is Sarah, and I want to tell you about my podcast called Can I Offer You Some Feedback? I'm a business consultant and executive coach with over 20 years experience in change management, leadership development, and naturally providing feedback to high performers. My podcast is for those of you who have a complicated relationship with feedback, whether giving, receiving, avoiding, or seeking. Feedback is essential for our development. In each episode, you'll hear from real people across industries with their ideas, perspectives, and best practices on feedback. I'll also be sharing business bites with you, simple explanations of organizational tools, management techniques, and leadership philosophies that will help you and your businesses thrive. You can listen to Can I Offer You Some Feedback on your favorite podcast app, or learn more at evergreenpodcasts.com.
Absolutely. Well, first off, again, as Jack said, thank you for offering these options. And I think that, a couple things, the whole concept of human return on investment. So I was just on the HR social hour chat last night, and one of the folks was mentioning like, oh, well, you have to prove return on investment. And I'm like, well, yeah, because any business thing you have to
prove return on investment.
Yeah, exactly. And so the fact that you're titling that and thinking about this, as Jackye said, actual practitioners that are on the ground doing this work, that maybe are a team of one or a team that's very small. The other thing I'll say about some of the conferences that we attend is that it's always these like huge names, which is great from a name recognition, but you're like, yeah, I don't have a team of 400 HR people to do all the things. It's
Mm-mm.
me and, my friend, my little mouth, Joe, in my pocket.
I am the editor. I am the marketing department.
I am marketing. Yes.
Yes,
Shout out. Yeah.
exactly.
Shout out to, the team at Humoriso. John and Jamie have both really jumped in with both feet to help me to bring this back, because that was one of the reasons that I had to pause, in between when we did it in 2020 and now, is because I am a team of one and I have a whole family, and at the time had a whole full-time job. And listen, like, putting together, and me being a nutbag, decided to do this in the height of the pandemic. Like, who does that? So just recovering from all of that and the stuff of life was like, no, this isn't going to happen. But we pushed, and we're looking forward to bringing it back and keeping it on a regular cadence as we move forward. And it's important to me, this is not about like name recognition. Like, you're not going, as I jokingly call them, like the HR celebrities and the folks that you see doing the conference circuit on a regular basis. Sorry, y'all, you will not see them at the HROI summit as a speaker, because I want the attendees to be learning from people who are doing this work, who are close to the ground, who are going to understand their frustrations, who either as a consultant or as a practitioner have worked in a lot of different industries and are bringing a breadth of knowledge that they can share with people and in these intimate sessions, and in this workshop where it's going to be interactive, where there's going to be opportunity for them to ask questions, and there's going to be takeaways that they will have that they can take back to their desk and be able to be like, yeah, I can implement this. I feel like I've got what I need to do to be able to implement this. And these are all areas that we know are going to bring return on investment for the company. Your orientation and onboarding experience are a key indicator as to whether or not you're going to stay with the company or whether you're going to leave within the first 6 to 9 months. The way that your talent is handled is a key indicator on whether you are going to ghost this recruiter or ghost this interview, or whether you're going to see the process through and be willing to accept this job. And the candidate experience through that is going to heavily influence their enthusiasm coming into the job, and whether they're like, yes, I'm so excited to be working at this place, or whether they're like, man, I'm gonna take this job, but I'm gonna keep my search going just in case something else comes along. And we all know that, safety costs millions for organizations, and it becomes so very quickly an adversarial process between the injured worker and the company, and the practitioner often feels trapped in the middle between this injured worker and their provider in trying to communicate information, or trapped between the injured worker and the manager and trying to figure out whether we accommodate light duty and things like that. And in the meanwhile, the bill just keeps running up. And so we have to talk about the ways that we do this better. And knowing that attendees are going to walk away with practical things that they can take back to their workplace and do differently and share with their teams right away makes the cost of admission worth it. And that's what I wanted for this conference, this summit, when I created it. And it's what I want it to continue to be as we go forward.
Well, awesome. And I love that you took the feedback from folks to really make it something that would be very helpful, very, current, very, hey, this is my need right now today. And yeah, onboarding, I think, is such a critical piece. And, speaking of ROI, it's also the sooner they're onboarded and happy and good to go, the sooner they can hit the ground running and actually
start to be productive and start to be effective in whatever it is that you've hired them to do. But
absolutely,
when that doesn't work, then they're confused and unhappy and hindered You think about how many remote people don't have their computer or don't have their accesses set up for them on their first day. Just the timing of things like that is so important. And how do you project manage that when it's not something that you're familiar with doing? You've got to having that guidance. And so we talk about the onboarding experience in terms of like making it fun and making it interactive, and that's important. I won't downplay that, but also knowing that it takes your IT department 5 days to get equipment prepared matters in the way that you onboard people as well, because when I show up and there's no computer on my desk, I ain't feeling too welcomed.
No.
And so now this looks bad to the person. This looks bad on behalf of the organization. IT is embarrassed. Like, this is not a win for anybody. So we've got to figure out how we bridge all of those gaps to make sure the folks coming into our organizations are having the best experience possible, because we know that it's what leads to better outcomes.
Absolutely.
And so many, I think.
I remember having to actually get wipes to wipe down the desk that I was now this was like in the office. And I was like, yeah, they're not prepared for me to start today.
No.
It wasn't even an equipment issue. It literally was like, this desk is dusty and nasty and whatever. It was nasty. And I was like, okay, I don't really feel them up right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna need them Clorox wipes right quick.
Exactly.
I had that with a charger once, and I was like so offended. Like, why did you send me this nasty charger? Like, it was like, and it don't have to be perfect, but I think people don't realize too, there's a higher expectation, I feel like now, that people are looking for in that experience. And they're looking for a similar experience, at least something that feels consistent with every separate person that they're asking to, that you know what you're talking about, that you're going to be able to answer my questions and you can point me in the right direction. And there's lots of pieces, and don't even survey people after they go through the onboarding process. So you don't even know, a year in, and they'll say, oh, we do that. I didn't know we got off for a volunteer. And it's like, what?
What?
Been here how many years? And you never knew that we did that. Or it's too late when you're getting to the an exit interview and they say, well, I really wish this would have happened. And it's like, wait, all of that was there. And trying to give people, we were talking about doing stay interviews more recently, because it's like we forget and lose touch sometimes about what that experience is like. But I feel like it's just really important to know what people are going through now and what their expectations, and you have to level set around those expectations.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I would also say that it's in the first 2-3 days that they're starting at a new job, they're getting 300, it's the fire hose that, they're not going to remember half of what you said in that, half day orientation that you have. It's the ongoing communication as well. Sarah, I want to talk about safety a little bit if we could, because I just had this situation pop up. And so I want to get your thoughts. So I had an organization that I'm working with that happens to be based in Texas. And I'm in Arizona, so I feel comfortable saying this, that Texas also has a lot of gun owners, and
it's true,
like Arizona. And so we were discussing like safety, like from an actual site safety perspective, because they don't have a badge access, they don't have, certain things. And so I think the unfortunate piece of being in the day and age that we are in, and the fact that for whatever reason, everyone thinks assault rifles are good for folks to have in their hand. Are you going to be touching on like physical safety and how to prepare, like almost a, not active shooter type situation, but things along those lines? Are you going to be talking about that in the safety session?
I do want to touch on it because I think it's important. It's unfortunate that these are the times that we live in. And I remember the first time that we had an active shooter situation in one of the workplaces, and we were on our heels in terms of just not, it was, it wasn't our main site. It was one of our other locations. We were on our heels in terms of not knowing what to do. And that led me to work with my compliance team to just go through the laundry list of all of the, like, what is the plan for? And so I probably won't go into super depth on it, but at least to be able to touch on it from an aspect of what you need to be prepared for and thinking through, and also how to deal with employees when that situation happens, because that's a workers' comp issue as well. In the situation at my previous employer, we had employees who were beyond traumatized and just could not return to work. And so we had to figure out, how do we, first of all, setting up services for them, making sure that they're getting the support that they need from a counselor. But then also, what do we do with their position? Can this position be done remotely? Can we move them into another office location? Like, what do we do in that instance? And so I think it falls under the same kind of criteria that you would look at any sort of accommodation following someone's injury, or work-related, work-caused illness. So it has to be touched upon. As we are recording this, I've got the news on in the background. We've got an active shooter situation at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. So one professor was killed, some others were injured. It appears that the suspect is in custody, but like, that's unfolding right now. Tomorrow, my husband is going to wake up and he's going to go to Duke University, where he works in their police department, and they're going to, I'm sure, have all kinds of meetings and protocol reviews and updates. And whenever something happens, we all collectively hold our breath and check in on our people in the area. And that's a reality of the workplaces we live in. So I wouldn't feel comfortable doing a session about workplace safety and not talking about that, because a lot of the instances of violence in the workplace are connected to that. Now, domestic violence incidents that seep into the workplace are another area that has to be touched upon, because it's close to half, if not half, of the workplace violence incidents are usually tied to that, and employers a lot of times don't know what to do in order to keep folks secure. So what are the protocols that you need to put in place? And it's unfortunate that these are the conversations we have to have, but these are the conversations we have to have. Yeah.
Because it's too late after it happens. I mean, that's not the place to start looking it up. You know, that's not the time to put those things into place. And so you have to do that. And like you said, and when those situations happen, you do want to check in on your people, and you want to check and see how your family is doing. You want to know if everybody's okay. And but there's a job to do, and that's the hard part of making sure that you have those things already in place.
Yeah, and for me, like, I always tell people, like, I'm from the hood, so my head is always on the swivel anyway. So when I come into work, I remember one of the places that I worked years ago, we did not have, a badge in and out system. Everybody had keys. And there would be moments in the day where there would be no one at the front desk. And I'm like, so when there's no one at the front desk, we locking this door, right? Because you can't just have the door open for people to just roll up. And it was like so foreign to everyone until, we had an incident where an employee was upset and showed up there and started acting a fool. And then I was like, I told y'all, lock the door. Like, don't look at me, because I'm going out the back, because no, I'm not here for that.
Right. Well, and I even, like, with all of the layoffs that are going on, and I know this might be a controversial statement to make, but I also have advised clients, like, if you're going to be doing a reduction in force, a layoff, whatever, make sure that you are in touch with local law enforcement. Just to give them a heads up to, hey, can you just, pass by here a little bit more often than you normally do today or this week or whatever? Because I think that's the other part is, we do have those disgruntled employees or
Mhm.
former employees, things like that. And so there's just a lot going on. But I'm glad that you are touching on that, because I think that is something that, you don't think about that as an HR thing until you're in
it's
it.
thrust, until it's thrust in your lap.
Exactly. Like Jackye said, like, it's not the time to think about it isn't after, it's before it happens, all that good stuff. And so, the sessions that you're holding, obviously these are critical for any HR professional to not just be familiar with, but also have some good, like, working session type. Like Jackye said, having a 3-hour workshop is such a critical and helpful thing. It's not just, here's my notes. Now, how the heck do I do this in real life? So I love that you're doing this as, kind of the, workshop and really giving practical steps on how to make this real.
And takeaways that of like these, these are the questions that you need to ask and answer within your organization, because all of this is customizable. Like nothing, no to onboarding and orientation programs, no to talent programs, no to safety program. None of it's going to be the same, but where you start, like the fundamental questions that you need to answer within your organization and determine like what level of importance, and really thinking about it from a perspective of like, what is the experience that we want people to have when they're going through this process? How do we, what's our goal about how we want them to feel as they're going through this process? And then you put together events that happen that are likely, because you can't make people feel anything, but that are likely to cultivate those kinds of feelings in people. And that really has to be what's at the center. And we so often, we make this checklist of like things that people need to do. Like we, in onboarding, it's like we need all these forms and they have to be signed. And so we give all, a big stack of them, or whether that stack is physical or electronic, doesn't matter. Because if I have to sign 70 pieces of paper electronically, I am just as annoyed as if I have to sign 70 pieces, physically sign 70 pieces of paper.
Listen,
and
it is so dumb.
we don't think
on
about
your mouse. You try to do it on, or like
mortgage.
Sign it with your finger. I'm like, what? It doesn't look like a signature at all.
At all. And trying to do it with the mouse is the worst.
Forget it.
And then for me, it's the selecting what color do I sign it in? Do I want it to be, because they give you too many options. Like it's like black or blue, but some of them have like purple, and I'm like, oh, purple. And so now, or I can pick whatever color I want to. So now I have this like rainbow of options, and
and then you have people coming back to HR going, why are you letting people
sign in pink? Like this can't be pink. I'm like, oops. So, but why not? Like, who said why not?
I feel like there's just a lot, I love that you had like we keep saying about that it's return on investment. I don't think people outside of HR know how many pieces that go into work, and once you tell them, they don't believe you. Like they really, really don't. When you're like, no, this is how we need to implement. This is what we have. These are what we're challenging. And then as soon as you think you got it handled, that is when you will be surprised. People always like to say, oh, I haven't been surprised. No. There's still room.
There's still room. Yeah, there's still room. And the other thing with return on investment and HR is, I don't know that any other area within business gets dinged for the quote unquote lack of return on investment of the things that we do as much as HR does, because it's people centered and event centered and not necessarily tied to like a budget item or a specific business operational outcome. We suddenly act like it's so foreign to figure out how this could be a helpful, important thing for the company. And I'm like, well, I don't hear anybody saying that about the coffee maker, but it's here. Nobody's asking why soft toilet paper is where's the return on investment on this Charmin that we buy, and yet we keep ordering it from the Costco. So help me understand.
Don't buy the cheap stuff. Don't buy the cheap stuff.
Listen, I'm the first one. I give people, when people ask me like what are things to look for when you're looking for a job, to know like what about the environment, I tell them go in the bathroom and check the toilet paper.
Yeah.
Toilet paper.
Because
Yeah.
and particularly as a woman, because no organization that respects and values women are going to ask us to care for our lady parts with that one ply crap. So
Jail. That's jail paper. That's a sign.
It's a sign.
Yes.
It's a sign that your future is not equitable. So go ahead and decline that offer. That is one of those. That's one of those things that like.
I would love that Glassdoor
right.
review. I would love that Glassdoor review of what the toilet paper sucked, so I'm not taking this.
I'm not
It's on
taking
Yelp.
this job.
They put those on Yelp. It's a Yelp review.
It should be there. It should be there along with dusty trophies. That's another one.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Dusty old trophies. Like, why is your 2011 whatever trophy still out there? It is 2023. Put that away.
Right.
And it's dusty. Stop it.
I also love that you're talking about the tea on talent and the, you know, the pieces that again are just so for a 1 or 2 person shop. How to do some of these things well, right, correctly, and in the new world that we're in of recruiting, that, you know, highly competitive, people are looking for different things than they were looking for even 5-6 years ago, especially with everything with COVID, all the things with politics, etc., that folks want a very different experience and want it to be candidate focused. I mean, I'm sure both of you remember, you know, the CVP writing out candidate value proposition. It's almost going back to that basic, but it's like, but in 2023, it's not that, you know. And so how do you think about that in a different way? And think about, and I know that Kirsten will do this, like not just who you have on the team now, but who are you looking for to join the team in the future? So
in advance. And how are you doing that? Like, who are you reaching out to? What is your process? And somebody asked me last week, we are up to now with my open role, 1,000 candidates that have applied. And so someone said, do you reply
so you're one of those
everyone?
hiring managers that doesn't respond and doesn't.
That's right. That's what someone said. They go, do you respond? Do you respond? I was like, are we still having that conversation?
We still talking about this?
Yes. We respond to every single one. They said, will you meet with people? Will you meet with them? And I was like, yeah.
Yes, you should absolutely do that.
And people are like, wow, how do you do that? Like, you just want to hang up the phone. You have to now, at a minimum, because they will talk about you and your mom right there,
on the social media street,
right there will tell you. And it's fast. We had somebody, like a fake person. It was after last week. Kieran posted something about DEIB being, people are getting excited still about it. And we got a racist, sexist, hateful post on Glassdoor, and all through LinkedIn and all of, you know, and it was like Glassdoor took it down in less than 24 hours. But I mean,
that's wonderful. However,
but you have to jump in. You have to look and see who's applying. You don't know, because that's what you're talking about, safety. These are the real places that are promoting inclusion at work. You have to be careful. Like, someone's like, oh, you get trolled? I was like, I don't work at Baskin Robbins. I mean, like, yeah, absolutely. And so, but you also, somebody was talking about doing a green door for work. It's like, you really have to make sure people feel safe. What are you doing to make people feel safe at work? And how can you represent your company accurately? Not as a marketing play, but letting people know what to expect before they get there.
Hey podcast listeners, my name is Paul O'Connor and I'm the host of the Rust Belt Rundown, a show that highlights valuable insights from manufacturing executives and business leaders in Northeast Ohio and beyond. We convene these leaders for candid discussions about business, regional happenings, industry trends, entrepreneurship, and more. With a wide range of guests and topics, there is something for everyone. Listen to Rust Belt Rundown for free on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app.
Even if what they need to expect is that y'all are a little cray cray right now.
Right.
Like, I respect
Yes.
organizations so much that are willing, that are like, we are a bit of a shit show.
Yeah.
And we're working on it. You know, here's the plan for us to not be this in 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, a year. But right now, we a mess. And
We're
you
a
can be
full
coming
mess.
into, and you're gonna be coming into a mess, and this is what it's like. I would much rather tell me that. I would much rather
Right.
just tell me that, instead of saying like, this is great, we have such great work-life balance, we have such
Right.
great, we're so flexible. Tell me that you're not. Like,
Right.
and then let me make the decision as to whether or not I want to go forward everywhere. Anyway, give me the knowledge, and then let me make the choice. But when you don't, it's worse, because now you've tricked me into doing this, and then I get there and I'm like, but you told me this and you told me that, and then you gaslight me and pretend like you didn't say the things that you said. Like, don't do that. Just don't do that, because people are gonna talk. The word
That's right.
is gonna get out. And that's, and that's what leads to the lack of safety, the lack of psychological safety, and sometimes that ends up translating into a lack of physical safety in workplaces, and we don't want that.
No.
Agreed. So the other piece that I was just going to throw out to you is, this conference, I would encourage anyone who's interested in joining and attending this to also think about folks in their employee branding team, folks in their ESG or corporate
sure.
social responsibility, because these topics that you're talking about also touch so much of this
Are
other work
relevant.
that's being done. And I think it just would be helpful for other folks to attend, not just the HR
the
person
leaders
or
of those things. Yeah, this would be great if you are in charge of recruiting, if you're the onboarding coordinator, if you're the safety coordinator or the safety champion in your organization. All of these are things that you're going to be able to use. If you're the leader of those things, but you're not necessary, because there are organizations where talent sits separate from HR, safety sits separate from HR. In any of those, instances, there is opportunity. So while I would say probably 90% of the folks that came to the last HROI were HR and HR practitioners, we had a couple marketing folks in there. We had some C-level folks that really just wanted to learn and understand, and we were focused more on anti-racism and pay equity in those sessions, but really just wanted to learn more and understand about those topics. So if these are topics that you touch on in the work that you do, then come on, and come on and spend a few hours and really get into the guts of it, so that you can be more supportive and more well versed in having these communications within your business, because people belong to everybody. And I know, and we like to push it all off on HR, but these people functions belong to everybody. And it's just as important for the managers. Anyone who is a manager of people should be versed in these sorts of areas, because you have a responsibility to create a welcoming environment in your organization during the onboarding and orientation process. You have a responsibility to create a good candidate experience when you are recruiting and screening and interviewing people into the organization. You have a responsibility to create psychological safety and to create a welcoming environment, and to help your employees move through trauma if they go through some sort of injury connected to work. That belongs to you, whether you sit in an HR seat or not.
Absolutely. All right. So the last question that we ask is always, what is one thing you want to make sure folks get from this episode? Obviously, biggest one is go buy your ticket. Early pricing ends soon, so go get your ticket and use the discount code InclusiveAF. But what is one thing more from kind of the content or what is one thing you want folks to make sure they heard during this episode?
I want to make sure that people walk away remembering that the experience of people in the workplace matters more than the bottom line. Because your bottom line is going to suffer if the experiences of the people in your workplace are not healthy and positive and intentional. And so what we're doing with HROI is really about cultivating those intentional positive experiences. And for me, all the work that I do at this point, if it's not going to lead to outcomes that are going to be intentional and be healthy and positive for people, I don't want it. Like, throw the whole thing away. I don't want it. So if anything, walking away from this episode, listen to the stories that the three of us have shared, the anecdotes, the tips and gems that the three of us have shared, and do some reflection on the ways that you can make experiences that people have that are universal, for all of us in the workplace, that you can make those better and positive and be intentional about how you go about that. Do I want you to come to HROI? Yes, I do. But if you can't or you don't, I still want you to walk away. You could hear this episode in November and the session, the conference be over. So if you're hearing this now, be thinking about how do I be more intentional about making the experiences of people at work better, safer, healthier for them. Because if we take care of people, people will take care of our organization and will be successful. And that's been proven again and again and again. So let's put the people first.
So Sarah, I noticed that you do the Jackye method of one thing where it's like literally
35 things.
35 things.
Like 35.
Yes. One thing. Take care of the people.
I must say what Sarah said.
Yeah.
And then it'll just be 17 and a half.
Yay. Thank you.
I do want to back up on something that you said, because you were like, oh, we're not superstars. It's people that are doing the work. Well, I think y'all are superstars, but you actually do the work. I think that when you are going forward, of course, I'm going to encourage you to go to this conference. But as you're looking at conferences and thinking, because we are going into conference season, look and verify that the people that are talking to you did not get their full, 3-hour training that you're getting off of ChatGPT, that they've actually have verifiable experience doing the work. Because some of those superstars have never sat in my desk, and called an expert in the same field, never implemented a program ever. And so with y'all, the 4 of y'all participating, I know have done this work, and it's a blessing to get real practical guidance from real examples of real work. So I think it's so funny when people are like, oh, you think about it differently than most people. Yeah, because I've
done it.
Right.
I'm not like pontificating on some idea. Yeah.
Turns out donuts with daddy doesn't work for every organization. Turns out you might have to, we can't have a potluck.
Let's just absolutely no
potluck.
No potluck.
No potluck.
Yeah. Period. That's the most talk about safety. That's the most unsafe.
I never liked even before pandemic, pandemic. I went to a conference.
Have you watched Hoarders? Have you watched?
Yes. Have you watched? People are gross.
No way. I'm eating food.
I don't even
I barely want buffets anymore.
Rolled it up and licked their fingers. Rolled up the ham, licked their fingers. Rolled up another piece. Don't do potlucks. Never.
No. Never. Okay. Thank you, Jackye. Thank you, Sarah. Mine is just one thing. Go to the conference, but also the folks that are speaking at this conference, go follow them on socials.
Yes.
As Jackye and Sarah said, these are real practitioners doing the work, and it's current practitioners too, because I think even folks that were HR practitioners 10 years ago,
10 years ago,
it
don't look like
it's not the same. It's not the same. And And so, folks that are actually in the midst of these companies doing this work day in and day out, those are the folks you want to hear from, because the world is shifting, as we all know. We've mentioned ChatGPT a couple times in this episode. And so you want folks that know current things to be using, current work to be doing, all of those things. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you for having me.
Yes.
So glad I finally I finally made it. Mama, I made it. I'm on
Yes.
Inclusive AF.
Yeah, FYI, Sarah is, as Jackye said, she is one of our people. So we have a special place in our heart for Sarah. And she's also really fun to hang out with at conferences.
Yes.
So,
thank you.
Yeah.
Her head's always on a swivel, so watch out.
Always on the swivel.
Yeah, but that's actually a good thing, because she keeps you in check while you are out.
We can't be out. Yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
People
Keeping an eye on things.
It's too sussy. Everything's a little too suspect. We gotta keep it. Stay alert.
All right, folks. This is the Inclusive AF podcast. My name is Katee Van Horn,
and I'm Jackye Clayton. Bye.
Welcome, change agents, to your go-to place for stories that ignite your spirit, fuel your purpose, and connect us all. We believe in the incredible power of the human spirit, its boundless resilience, and the inspiration it brings to our lives. On the Driving Change podcast, we'll journey together through the extraordinary yet very relatable experiences of some of the most amazing people on earth. Our mission? That through these stories, we might just spark change within you and awaken a newfound motivation to harness your unique gifts to make a real difference in the world. So get ready to be inspired and join us on this incredible adventure. You can find the Driving Change podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you love listening to your favorite podcasts.